Howdy, Homeworthy. I'm Joe Hanson. Welcome to my apartment in Brooklyn. Come on in.
This holiday season, get ready to unwrap the most magnificent holiday homes with Homeworthy's 25 Days of Christmas. For the month of December, we'll take you inside the most heartwarming houses, decked out for the holidays in true festive fashion. From twinkling lights and elegantly trimmed trees to sparkling ornaments and cozy holiday charm, these homes capture the warmth, wonder, and beauty that make this season so special. So join us as Homeworthy celebrates 25 days of Christmas. The magic starts now.
Raise your glass. Cheers! Merry Christmas! Happy holidays!
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Howdy, I'm Joe Hanson. I am a model, designer, actor sometimes, living in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Welcome to my apartment. I got to this apartment through a series of twists and turns. I first moved to New York City in October of 2020, which was dead middle of the pandemic. I had just graduated from Stanford that year, and I started working on Wall Street shortly after. At first that was remote, which was interesting, working in investment banking remotely, but I made it work for a little bit back home in Houston. But I really wanted to be in the city, even though it was in the middle of the pandemic. I felt like the city was calling my name. I happened to find this apartment that had been listed the morning that I was searching, and I saw that there was a little terrace, and I said, all right, that's all I need to see. We're south facing, so there is natural light all day long, which is honestly the biggest luxury of all. This space was a white box when I moved in, as most rental apartments are. I felt like I needed to put my stamp on this space. I did the red dining room first, and then I did the blue bedroom, and then I finished out with the green living room. If you were to zoom out, this apartment would resemble sort of a pixel. That is so pretentious. Really, I just love these colors, and I really wanted to go have a fun time in here. So welcome to my dining room, or the red room, which is kind of the most controversial room in the house. It's a fully high gloss red wall to ceiling room, but it actually comes in really handy at the holidays because it looks really festive. This space serves multiple functions. When I first moved in, I was a little bit confused because there's this big structural column right at the end of the room that kind of impedes access to the back half. And so I kind of had to figure out what I was going to do there. I mean, I started out by hiding the column, hiding it by putting it in a pattern fabric. I just wrapped it around the column. I had this piece of art actually, which is actually a depiction of Josephine Baker as Sailor Moon, which I bought at auction through Fairchain. Shout out to Fairchain. And it kind of just went perfectly with the colors of the fabric, so I mounted it on top. And then at Christmas time, I do the garland. So this is a good time to talk about the garlands, which are in fact real. It's pine and different evergreens. This is sort of my favorite way to decorate for the holidays. I come from a tradition of Christmas decorators. My mother is sort of the OG, and she's in Houston, so that involves pheasant feathers and a lot of copper and gold and really beautiful details. I'm in Brooklyn, so I honestly think the natural pine, the natural evergreen works really well. The best thing, I can't even tell you, it smells divine. And this is my favorite thing about this entire season is from December through January, this apartment smells like a forest. And that's because there's so much natural foliage in here during this time of year. The one bad thing about it is I am constantly sweeping. So in the way that I lint roll my couch like a maniac during the months of December and January, I will be sweeping this house like a maniac because the pine needles are everywhere. But that's a price I'm willing to pay. It's honestly incredible. And I love the way that it turned out this year. So with the structural column in the back of this room, I kind of divided it into a bar area over here, and sort of like the, the laundry area over there. But this is sort of, my bar setup. I'm running a little bit low right now, which is actually my next task after we wrap here. I need to go get drinks because I'm hosting a cocktail party. This is a fun corner actually. So there's this triptych by a photography duo named the Heidis, which is really just kind of this beautiful series of poses in motion with this beautiful blue taffeta. I can never see the woman's face, but the motion is really what captured me. And so of course there are the medical posters, which I know are kind of strange, but I love them. I mean, they're sort of a tribute to my father. He's a physician and, we're medicine families. That's, sort of that, but I kind of like the idea of, this is from Mother of Junk, which is one of the best junk stores. I never thought I'd say that, but yeah, it's one of the best junk stores in New York, and it happens to be right down the street. And so this is, probably came from some classroom. I've mirrored it with something a little bit more fine. It's a vintage Chinese acupuncture, actually, diagram. And so that's, sort of a little bit of a juxtaposition there. They're sort of the same thing, but different. And so I mentioned, I tend to give names to some of the inanimate objects in my home. So Colby and Chandler are the house cats over there, the tigers. And so this is Max, who hides behind the corner. He's a little bit shy. In my mind, they're all brothers and they're all very fond of each other, but Max is the recluse, and so he lives over here behind the column. Right now, I am preparing for this party that we're having tonight. Last year, I decided to do a sit-down dinner before birthday party, and I did everything in terms of setting out the table and making the apartment look really pretty, and I forgot to order the food, which was the biggest issue. So I ended up ordering Joe's Pizza at the last minute, which was great. It turned out fantastic, but this year, it's just the cocktail party, and that's what we're getting ready for tonight. Someone once told me, honestly, all you need for a mood is a ton of candles, so that's what we've done. These are a mix of taper and the block candles, and then we have more of the evergreen surrounding. So this is my seasonal bouquet, which I did this morning. And then on this wall, I have this vintage mirror, which actually, I was looking for a vintage mirror that I was gonna paint red to match the wall. And then on Facebook Marketplace, I happened to find someone who was selling a red painted mirror, and it was in Fort Greene. So I took a little trip down there, picked it up from this wonderful lady, and it goes great on this wall. But surrounding it, I have 4 of these prints by Honoré Daumier, who was a French cartoonist and artist and satirist. These 4 prints sort of depict the miscarriage of the justice system in certain ways, and so it's interesting. Really what I wanted was monochromatic art because the wall is already red, red, red. But I actually really do love these prints and how they turned out here. The chairs are vintage. I'm not sure exactly from what era, but they are incredibly comfortable, and I've had them for a couple of years now, and everybody loves these chairs. They're actually the starting point for the color of the room. They're the first thing that I got because I needed dining chairs, and a friend of mine sold me these, and I was looking at them and I was like, well, maybe the whole room should be that color. So this is the starting point for the rest of the room, but I kind of love how it works. So there are hints of like other colors in each of these rooms. I mean, there's the blue table and the red room, and there's hints of green in the blue room and all of that. So it's monochromatic, but it is sort of a mix. And then at Christmas time, it just really, really, really works, and so that's my favorite time to entertain. So honestly, optimize to what you're excited about, I think, and that's sort of what's happened here. Honestly, I'm so chuffed with how the garlands came out this year. Last year I did sort of just a pine, and it looked great, but it was a little bit scrawny. This evergreen bunch is really incredible, and this is from Chelsea Garden Center, which is right down the street. And I will always, I'll tell people where I got things. My thing is, like, someone told me when I first moved to New York, the rules are, gaslight, girl boss, gatekeep. I will never gatekeep. I'm always gonna tell you where I got something. And at Chelsea Garden Center, they do a wonderful job with the evergreen garlands. So shout out to them. This is a photograph of me. And before you get the ick, let me explain. So this is by Stas Ginsburg, and we are Stas is an incredible friend, an incredible photographer, and an incredible collaborator. The day that I met Liz Graziolo at the NeemCon luncheon and kind of got my foot in the door in design also happened to be the day that all the wildfire smoke from Canada came into New York City. And so I went from that luncheon at the Museum of the City of New York. Stas texted me and said, "The sky is crazy, we have to shoot." So I left that luncheon, went to Dumbo, and we found this soccer field, and we took these series of photos, and this one is, you know, kind of the hero shot of the bunch. I'm not somebody that has a ton of photos of himself in his own home, but this is one that I really love, and it means a lot to me, so I'm glad that it's here. And it sits next to my kitchen, which is currently a mess as I get ready for this party tonight. But I wanted to mention my bowl of limes, which is truly an homage to Dakota Johnson because we love her, and who doesn't need a bowl of limes? The thing with rental apartments is, you know, there is a limit to what you can do in the space. You know, you're not making any architectural changes, but really I decided to go for it with the cosmetic changes, you know, with paint, wallpaper. The thing about that is, you know, those are somewhat easily reversed, and you know, I think for me, it's I think for anybody in New York City, it's a cost-benefit analysis of how much do you care about getting your security deposit back versus how much do you want to live in a space that, you know, reflects you, that you design, that's personal to you. So I think for me, I'm, you know, very much on the side that it's so worth it to, you know, have a space that reflects me and that feel comfortable in. But yeah, I think it's not for everybody. There's definitely a lot of considerations in terms of doing a renovation, cosmetic makeover on a rental apartment, but that's kind of the fun part of it all. You're figuring out creative ways to make the space look different without fundamentally changing, you know, the structure of what you've been given. So honestly, it's an opportunity to get creative and have some fun, and that's definitely, you know, what I've tried to do here. The apartment's technically a 2-bedroom. I use one of the bedrooms as my living room, which we'll see in a moment, but it's a 2-bedroom with a little terrace outside. The layout is essentially 2 identical rooms. One of them does have access to the terrace, but it's really like 2 small rooms laid out next to each other. This is kind of the opposite of what my previous apartment was, which was more of an open plan. There is a separating wall here, which does impose limitations on the size of furniture that I can fit into this space, but does allow me to have a lot of different moments because there are different rooms. And so the bedroom is really, you know, it's the blue room. It's my favorite room. It's kind of dark and a little bit moody, but it's really, really peaceful. Blue happens to be my favorite color, and so that's honestly been my favorite room to work on. Welcome to my boudoir. Now, this is the blue room. This is my bedroom. It's probably my favorite room in this apartment. It's where I started, and where I first started, you know, really doing wallpaper and paint. So come on in. It's a little bit of a tight squeeze, as many bedrooms in New York are, but it makes it all the more cozy. The first thing you'll notice is that there's a lot of wallpaper. So there's 3 different wallpapers in this tiny room, which is sort of a lot. It's kind of a choice, but I think it's really fun, and they all kind of work together in a way and give the different walls different personalities. So this is one of my favorite kind of vignettes in the apartment. This is Pharaoh and Ball wallpaper that has kind of this hand-painted effect with the stripe, which is actually a little bit textured, and I just love the way that it looks. But on top of that, I put these 4 Napoleonic era costume prints, which are incredible. I love the poses of Spanish infantry, French infantry, French Dragoon, and Spanish Grenadiers. I was honestly first attracted to these because of the orange matte. They came matted like this, which was ideal, and I knew I wanted to do a blue and orange situation in this room because that's sort of my favorite color combination. But yeah, these are incredible. Love these. And then I did, you know, sort of a chinoiserie. This is not an antique, it's, you know, a reproduction, but it's a blue lacquered, pagoda style mirror, which is just so fun. I'm a big fan of chinoiserie, as you might be able to tell. I mean, growing up as a little boy in Houston, Texas, hard for you not to be. But so this is a Chinese export lamp, so it's probably British, but it's this beautiful antique from Two Worlds Arts, which is actually just around the corner here in Brooklyn. But it has an 8 on it, which is my birthday, December 8th. I'm turning 27. I'm nearing 30, which is giving me anxiety, but it's okay. I still feel young in my bones. The hangovers are not getting any better though. So I worked with Penny Long out of Beverly Hills to do this shade, this sort of pagoda shade, in this bright orange with the glass beads and tassels and all of that. This is honestly the most fun thing in this room. It honestly looks like it kind of belongs in Cabo with the coloration that I did for the beading and all of that. But honestly, the lamp is kind of overscaled for the size of the room, but it's so fun that I love it, and it's kind of like the centerpiece of the room. So that's a favorite thing. Yeah, this little corner I kind of use as my little haberdashery, which I put some of my ties and bandanas and belts and things. The curtains themselves are, these blue velvet that are, down to the floor. They're really dramatic, but they're also black outlined, which is ideal. So at nighttime, this becomes like pitch black. With the way that I've painted the ceilings in this really, really dark navy, it becomes sort of cave-like at night, which is honestly, it's the best. I've gotten this far without talking about the the blanket, but I can't hold my tongue anymore. This is my favorite thing in this apartment, and partially because it was a gift from my mother, who is my favorite person in the world. But it's this moody quilt that it's called the White House Steps pattern, but it's actually like a really intricately woven quilt that's based on 1870s, 1890s quilting in the Northeast. So this quilt is heavy. It weighs about 8 pounds. I love the lining. This little botanical print that they've done on the reverse is so darling, and I'm just obsessed with it. I think it's incredible. Bodhi is a brand that I love and respect so much. What they do, their brand ethos. There are 27 of these in existence if you're somebody that cares about that kind of thing. But no, it's really just the coziest blanket. And whenever I see it, I think of my mom, who is incredible. So love that. The pillows, the bedding, the rest of it is all Ralph Lauren. I used to be a monogram heavy kind of guy because I grew up again in Houston, and that's what we do. But I've become a little bit more restrained as I've gotten older. So you'll see the monograms are relegated to somewhat inconspicuous spots, like the sheets, the laundry basket, stuff like that. I used to have this massive monogram throw pillow. Actually, I think I might still have it. It's way too big for this space. And this is something that you start to learn as you design, and scale is important, all of those things. It's, I need to iron this, but it's, some massive monogram throw pillow, which is very Texas, but I still keep it because it's adorable. Yeah, so this lives in the closet. I mean, hey, he might come out sometime, in the future. Maybe I'll be back into massive monograms soon, but for now, it's a little bit more sedate. So the art in this room, so this is a painting by an artist out of the Lower East Side. He goes by Humane, and his work is really incredible. This piece is titled Neptune's Beard Doesn't Connect, which I bought it without really any explanation because I think interpretation is kind of the fun part, but there's sort of a melancholy figure. I mean, it's a little bit dark. I remember when I bought it, my mom wasn't a huge fan because she was like, that's kind of spooky. It's grown on her over time. But I think the idea is that this is Neptune, the god of the seas, but he is a little bit perturbed because his beard doesn't connect, the hairline thing. I don't know if that's really what's going on, but I love the piece. This is a massive print by James Needham. So it's, out in the salt flats, and I love that it's this massive print that was honestly a bear to frame and install, but it's really peaceful actually, and I love that there's just a bench and a trash can, and that's sort of the composition, and the rest of it is the salt flats and the desert and the mountains in the background. It's slightly overscale for this room, but I do like overscaled art, and I think it works really well. The little wall sconce almost didn't happen, and if you look too closely at the grass cloth that I put on the wall, you'll see multiple screw marks. This is when I was really like learning by myself how to do things. And so now I would probably, have my contractor, handyman come in and install things like that. But I was so excited when I moved in here to do everything myself. So, there are little vestiges of my enthusiasm and also a little bit of my naivete as well. But this room ends up being a little bit of a store, and that's sort of the whole theme with this apartment. I don't have that much closet space, so my shoes live throughout the space, and so do some of my clothing items and bags. But this is my favorite bag of all time. It's from Double RL, and it's this cowhide experience with this antiqued hardware. I recently took this to Peru with me for two of my best friends in this world, Sue and Nico, had a wonderful wedding trip in Peru, and this was perfect for the Andes. The laundry bin with the monogram is indeed very Texas. It's very SMU dorm room, but no shade to SMU, I love SMU. But once I saw it with the stripes, I was like, yeah, that's got to come in here. So that's that. And this little corner, I had so much fun decorating this apartment, especially this room, that I kind of just wanted to do every little corner as like a little, I hate when designers say moment because it's done, but as a little vignette, I suppose. And so there's this photograph that I got at an antique store. I don't know who it is, but I call him Ralph. Partially, after Ralph Lauren, who was a major inspiration. And then there's this antique croquet mallet. Actually, no, this is a polo mallet in bamboo that my friend Chris sold to me. So it's one of my favorite things in this room. It also happens to be my weapon if there were to be an intruder. And it serves as the means of opening up the curtains, which is kind of handy. So it's not just decoration, this is deeply functional, and I needed to have it. This is a House of Hackney wallpaper. I saw it and I absolutely loved it, and I knew that it had to go in this apartment, but at the time I'd already put a grass cloth on that wall and the Pharaoh ball stripe on this wall, and I was like, well, I guess I could do the closet. And so I really just kind of wallpapered this closet niche with this beautiful kind of dark botanical House of Hackney print. I love House of Hackney. I have, quite a few of their accessories, as you'll see in the living room. But yeah, this is fun. This actually makes me happy every time I see it. And I love this particular print. I think it comes in a few different colors, but I would absolutely use this again in another project. I'd always loved interiors. I grew up reading, AD and Al Decor, and honestly, like, people like Miles Redd and Mario Boada and Celery Kemble and Bunny Williams, all of these, iconic people that like I grew up loving their work. And I realized that like New York is really the home of the American design scene, and this is the opportunity. If you're gonna do it, you should do it. I was seated at a luncheon honoring Naim Khan. This was at the Museum of the City of New York, where I sit on the director's circle, but I just happened to be sitting next to Elizabeth Graziolo, who is the principal of Yellow House Architects. And we got to talking, and I told her that I was super interested in interiors. She invited me to come and intern, at Yellow House for a short amount of time and see if this is really what I wanted to do and see if this is the path that I wanted to take. So I really owe it kind of to her for giving me a shot in the industry and kind of letting me in the door. And so I had a wonderful time working for her, and I realized that I really do love interiors. I love design, I love textiles. I'm a guy living in Brooklyn at the moment, but I do some stuff, and I think I think the stuff that I have now come to do has really started to bring me some joy. Not that I didn't love being an investment maker. Actually, I think there's so much that I learned while working on Wall Street that I think I will take with me, for life going forward. I think like in terms of what I'm doing now, the modeling, the acting, the design work, all of that kind of works together and makes me really happy. So yeah, I've got it all figured out and my life is perfect. I consider you very privileged to have spent this amount of time in my bedroom. So let's go. We're going to the living room. Hello, welcome to my living room. As you can see, I do need to wear green when I'm in the green room. It's sort of a thing, neuroses. But these are Jacquemus, so it's also wonderful. So when I was designing this room, I really wanted it to feel sort of like a garden or sort of a tropical rainforest, hence the bamboo. This is another House of Hackney wallpaper that I love. This is sort of the centerpiece of the room. It's this just beautiful wallpaper mural, and it kind of anchors the room. I think when you come in here and you look at the bamboo, it almost feels like you're in, a different space, a bamboo forest, some sort of tropical environment, which is funny because we're in Brooklyn. But I kind of ran with that, and the plates on the wall are kind of grandma, but call me grandma. I mean, I love a good plate on the wall. It's also very Houston. And as I mentioned, there's not much closet space in this apartment, so the shoes find their ways into different rooms, and they become elements of decor. And I'm a big Stubbs guy, and so I had these sort of tropical creatures, and I figured they're part of my my little zoo or my rainforest. These two pillows are also from House of Hackney, and they're not just pillows. These are my house cats, Colby and Chandler. Max is the third one. He's in the red room, which we'll see in a moment. But I have a habit of giving the items in my space names. I think this is because I live alone and I'm losing it. But these are just fabulous pillows. Sometimes, when people come over, and there's a lot of people in this room, I mean, I'm hosting a party in 2 days for my 27th birthday, and there are 70 people coming over to my tiny apartment, so there ends up being people everywhere, and a lot of times people will lounge, the pillows, on the wall. So I love a good floor pillow. I think that's actually like a really fun seating option. So I use the frame TV, which many designers are partial to. This is the thing, it doesn't really look like a painting when it looks great, but I mean, I think you'd be hard pressed to say that it's, oh my God, it's not there. But I have this great, antique Chinese mural on the display, and it blends in really well with the wallpaper. And I have more little fauna, the butterflies and the birds that are contributing to this kind of rainforest jungle atmosphere that we've got going on in here. So that's fun. So on this wall, this is facing south. This is kind of all about the view. I just put up some simple army green velvet curtains, and the centerpiece of it is obviously this bust, which is wonderful. It's from Studio Dada, I believe, but it's this wrapped bust. I named her Grace, and she's kind of a protector in my opinion, but she is protected by these foo dogs, which are gorgeous. These are not particularly fine. I mean, they are antiques, but I love foo dogs, and these fit perfectly in the space. So put those up there, and then below just a couple of intaglios, and big fan of the Zaffarino lights. Those are super convenient for indoor, outdoor. There's a great rooftop on this building, so sometimes I'll take those upstairs if we're doing something on the rooftop at night. But yeah, it's relatively simple. The thing about this couch, and what I'll say is, I love this sofa. It's a sectional in black velvet. The issue is it necessitates a lint roller at almost all times. I can't tell you the amount of hours that I spent vacuuming or lint rolling this couch, and so for me, in my future, there is a reupholstery in the future. I love the way that it looks because it's sort of a void in the room. Black velvet just absorbs light, and so it makes it look somewhat larger because of the negative space that the black provides. But I'm kind of thinking like maybe a green chintz, just go all out, but we'll see. I've leaned in to sort of the masochism of it all by putting a beige wool throw on top of the black velvet sofa, which contributes significantly to the lint removal, but it's what we do for the game, the love of the game. As you'll see, there are, coffee table books everywhere, which I love a good coffee table book, as do most designers. Some of these are, special to me. This is the book of the collection Hochschild, which is one of my best friends, Nico. His family has a wonderful art collection, and they gifted me this book that kind of details a lot of it, and it's incredible. So that's, some of those are personal touches. There's the Luke Edward Hall book in the dining room that he signed for me at a Rowing Blazers event. I'm a big fan, and so it was honestly an honor to meet him. But yeah, the cocktail books, I like them to sort of say something if they can. I mean, under the hydrangeas and winter peonies, which were honestly, I love peonies, and I shouldn't have gotten them in December, but they were at Trader Joe's, where I get my flowers from Trader Joe's. I think that there's this whole misconception that you have to go to like a garden center or something to, get wonderful flowers. I think Trader Joe's has the best flowers, and their shamrock hydrangeas, those last for like months. Like I've had a arrangement of shamrock hydrangeas from Trader Joe's. It lasted for like 2 months. So big fan of TJ's. And my name's Joe, so like, gotta represent. But like, the books, Black Ivy, there's certain things that are like special to me, and my identity sort of, and things like that. I also, I've gotten someone into micro decorating, which I think is the new thing. But like, so there's scale, but also like, if you're in a small room, I think like having really, really micro accessories that force people to like really go in and look and what is that, I think that's really fun. So right here we have tiny little duck, and a tiny little wad of cash, band, as they say, which is just, that's adorable. And it forces people that are sitting on the couch to kind of like lean in and be like, what is that? But it's just another like level of visual interest in the space. So I'm calling it micro decorating. That's the trend in 2025. Heard it here first. I've never claimed to have a green thumb. In fact, most plants in my position ultimately meet an unfortunate demise. However, this one plant has been going strong for a year now, and I'm really, really proud of that. Someone asked me the other day if it was fake, and I took offense because I've nurtured this plant, and she's thriving. But that's pretty much the only thing. What I'll show you outside is sort of a graveyard. So I am incredibly lucky to have a terrace in New York City, and it's probably one of my favorite places to be. When it's warmer out, it's honestly great to come out here with a coffee, share it with whoever you happen to wake up with. For me these days, it's mostly anxiety and regret, but we're seeing the future. I mean, this is a Japanese maple that unfortunately I think has passed. I had this fantasy of this being my Christmas tree and decorating it in a way. Now it seems sort of sad. I mean, I'll make a go at it as my little Charlie Brown tree, but I think he's cooked. The issue is we had this one heat wave in the middle of the summer in which I was traveling, and this tree didn't get much water. And I think she made a rebound like around October, but now there doesn't seem to be much hope. It's dire over here, but that's okay. We'll make the best of it. And this will be my Christmas tree this year, this little Charlie Brown tree. I'm a Texas boy in the big city, and I am sometimes overwhelmed by the pace of New York. Home for me has been sort of a place of solitude, but in a good way, a place to reorganize, reassess, and really just to think. And so I think it's been a lab for experimenting with design, but really it's been my cozy bowo.